everyone. I am Nancy Naji. I am Nancy Naji. I am Nancy Naji. Welcome to our segment Hello Money. Today we'll be talking about the payday. You have to be street smart. We all know this year. No grief for anybody is our 2024 tagline. Hello and welcome to the program. It's a wet Monday in Abuja. Yes, a very wet one. It's drizzling here and there. It will drizzle, it will stop. But of course, we're in the raining seasons. This is Moneyline with Nancy. A new week, and I wish you all a profitable, productive, more money week for you. Do something that will give you more money legally. I didn't say you should go and do Yahoo Yahoo or MMM kind of thing or pyramid schemes or what do they also call it? All this kind of scams. You should be very careful. Don't also encourage. There's so much cyber crime going on right now. WhatsApp groups are being hacked. WhatsApps are being hacked. People are saying, in fact, one sent me a message last week concerning one of my colleagues, like a colleague's number, that I should please give 150. I said, even me here, they look for 150K. I can't give you 150K. So, but I immediately knew that it was a scam. So just be careful. The economy is not smiling. People are struggling. People that can't work and people that are lazy, people that can't take it anymore are trying to go into illegal stuff. So don't go into any illegal stuff. Like I said last week on the show when I was interviewing the DJ of Smeaden and the MD of Money Points Microfinance Bank, I did say that this economy is a hustler economy now. Everybody, they hustle, but hustle rightly. So I wish you all a profitable week. All right, today we will be talking about, I don't know if you all saw the circular, if you didn't even see it, but let me just tell you. Of course, the Central Bank of Nigeria has directed all banks and financial institutions to transfer all dormant accounts, unclaimed dividends, balances, and other financial assets to designated accounts. According to a circular issued on Friday, that was last week, signed by John Onoja, the Acting Director of Financial Policy and Banking Regulation Department, all dormant accounts and unclaimed balances with banks for at least 10 years will be warehoused in a dedicated account known as the Unclaimed Balances Trust Fund Pool. The Apex Bank also stated that funds from dormant accounts and unclaimed balances can be invested in the Nigerian Treasury bills and other government securities. We'll be looking at that now. Do we have our guest ready so that we can take that? What this news is about is, for those of you that have inactive accounts, that you have your money is your urgent 2K, or you have a few thousands here and there in banks and you haven't touched it in a while, at least 10 years. The central bank is saying that those categories of monies will be will be moved into an unclaimed balances pool account to be invested in government treasury bills and other assets. So we'll be looking at that very shortly on the program. But let's quickly move to other news now. The Central Bank of Nigeria is set to hold its Monetary Policy Committee meeting today, July 22nd, and Tuesday, July 23rd. Of course, the MPC is the highest policy-making organ of the CBN, headed by Yemi Cardoso, the CBN governor. The MPC in its last meeting raised the MPR to 26.25% from 24.75%. So the choice to hold the interest rates unchanged or further increase in benchmark lending rates will dominate the meeting, with expectations that the Apex Bank may likely increase the benchmark interest rates. All right, let's see how that goes. Very quickly, let's move over to the next story. The federal government has stated that it expects new reports to confirm the true sulfur content of the diesel produced by Dangote Refinery. So much news concerning Dangote Refinery, I must tell you at this time, as the company has denied allegations of inferior fuel production. And now, if we continue, the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, that is the NMDPRA spokesperson, George Ena-Eta, stated that the agency had done its job and would not engage in a media battle with anyone over the claims made by his CEO, Farouk Ahmed, that Dangote's fuel contains more sulfur than imported diesel. According to Ena-Eta, who spoke on Sunday, the authority has approximately 15 engineers and scientists embedded in the Dangote refinery, and a new report on the refinery's sulfur content will be released today. So we hope to see that. Still speaking on Dangote, because like I mentioned last week, the president of Dangote Group has been speaking, and he's been speaking like almost every week, almost every day Dangote is speaking. So Aliko Dangote, the president and chief executive officer of the Dangote Group, has urged the NNPC Limited to buy him off. That is to buy out the 650,000 barrels per day capacity Dangote refinery and petrochemicals in Free Zone Lekki, Lagos, which approximately cost $20 billion to build. He had an exclusive interview with Premium Times, of course, and he lamented that he's been labeled a monopolist, claiming that that is incorrect. He claimed that Nigeria has been experiencing a fuel crisis since the 1970s. He also stated that he hoped that by building and operating his refinery, he would be able to prevent such a national disgrace while also creating jobs. He did, however, mention that it appears that some people are dissatisfied with his refinery. Still with Dangote, he has stated that the group's board has decided to discontinue interest in investing in Nigeria's steel sector in order to avoid being labeled a monopoly. Dangote made the call on Saturday after receiving House leadership Speaker, and that's Tajuddin Abbas, and his deputy Benjamin Kalu. He has also requested that the House of Representatives investigate the quality of diesel and gasoline at filling stations. The group's president made this statement on Saturday in Lagos. Of course, Nigeria's richest man explained that the board of directors have decided to avoid the steel industry in order to avoid accusations of monopolization. All right, let's move over to the foreign scene now. President Joe Biden has ended his re-election campaign. He did that on Sunday after fellow Democrats lost faith in his mental ability to beat Donald Trump. He announced his decision in a letter posted on social media, and in a subsequent post, he endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris to be the party's candidate. Let's take this report. The Middle Belt region has over 300 indigenous ethnic nationalities with similar cultures, traditions, and social values. United Middle Belt Indigenous Peoples Congress inaugurated its national executives with Barrister Abuaka Omababa, President General of the United Middle Belt Indigenous Peoples Congress, stated that the Middle Belt region produces more than 80% of locally cultivated food crops and has the capacity to stand as a separate geographical entity in Nigeria.
Our main economic drive is farming in the Middle Belt. And so if, and the food production is coming from here. And let me also tell you that we have all the natural resources in the Middle Belt. We have all the natural resources. The Ajokuta can sustain the Middle Belt as a whole. Apart from farming, But the issue is that we are majorly in farming. We go to farm every day, and that is where we make products. So the killing of our farmers is becoming outrageous. It's not, it won't be up to 5 years. This group will bring peace in the Middle Belt, and the Middle Belt will be able to be competing with other regions. We want to compete with other regions in terms of electricity, in terms of generating our electricity from Kanji Dam. Well, in terms of food production, we want our people not to be roaming around in Lagos, going to everywhere to be roaming. No, when the home is palatable for them, when the home is good for them, we are fishermen, farmers, all of them will have to come back home so that we can build our home. We can build the Middle Belt.
Time has come for Africa to engage in serious conversation aimed at finding answers for its problems.
My brothers and sisters, I firmly believe this mutually beneficial friendship will benefit from opportunities created by the African Economic Congress platform. And this is the reason we need to deepen democracy in Africa and empower citizens and civil society organizations.
Still on this, Reverend Father Lawrence Hanye Bugu, Parish Priest, Catholic Diocese of Lafayette at Nasarawa State, calls the attention of the President to the challenges of the people, hence the urgent need to implement the new minimum wage as soon as possible.
To let the President know that Nigerians are suffering, Nigerians are hungry, and so let him look into bring up policies and programs that will bring food into the table of the people. And that is my advice. I want to advise him, and then he should listen to the people, feed the pulse of the people. It's the same people, those that are getting plenty money and those that are getting small money, they go to the same market. There's no market for small people or market for big people. So at least minimum wage that will be able to take care of people. That's my advice.
Honestly, encompasses all. So whatever is beneficial to the men is also beneficial to the women. So we believe that women are part of the community and they will also benefit in whatever we do.
The event also emphasized the role the group will play in the economic emancipation of their people and in fostering peace among the community.
Find it deep or necessary to unite ourselves to fight for our rights. And I still find it that here is the right time for we Northerners to shine our eyes. Because time is a stranger. It came and go. So we are here to mobilize ourselves and also to gather ourselves to unite in peace, not in pieces, to achieve our aim, to stand on our own.
All right, so welcome back. Now, let's quickly take Olumide Adesina. Can we now? Olumide Adesina is an analyst at Quantum Economics. I did speak to you earlier that we'll be talking about the directive from the central bank to banks and other financial institutions on inactive accounts. Olumide, are you with me now? Can you hear me? Olumide, can you hear me? Olumide, are you there? Okay, since we can't get Olumide yet, let's quickly take a break. When we come back, we will continue with the program. All right, we have Olumide Adesina now, analyst quantum economics. Hello, Olumide. Welcome to the program. Can you hear me now? Okay. It seems we're still having a problem from Olumide's end. Let's quickly take a break, and when we return from the break, we will be going into our second conversation, into another conversation rather. We will be talking about the 70K new minimum wage, the expectations as well as the realities. Last week, you recall that President Tinubu had a meeting with organized labor, and they settled. After the meeting, we were told that the minimum wage of 70K was settled. We're expecting that the wage bill, the new minimum wage bill, will come to the National Assembly this week. My guest will be joining me after the break. Do join us again. This is Moneyline with Nancy. I am Nancy Nnaji. Does that mean that when there's a new government, the people managing perhaps the economy or any sector should now be agitated that there's a new sheriff in town and all of us will be asked to go?
Well, it depends on how you look at it, and great question, by the way.
It's a great question, Nancy.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nancy. It's a good question.
The school does not teach us about money, and this is Moneyline. So we are the one that teaches people what financial education really is.
A lot of things that we need to address in this country, and one of those things definitely is corruption.
Let me start by commending you for what you've been doing for years. As I said, I've been following your show for almost 10 years now.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to help me to come to this great program.
You be the best you can be, and be the change that you want to see. Nigeria, a big economy, but not a growth engine. Paradox.
Well, I think both statements are actually questionable. What makes Nigeria a big economy? Nigeria has lost its bragging right as the largest economy in Africa. In terms of size of the economy, we are now fourth in Africa. In terms of GDP per capita, we rank quite low. In terms of human development index, we rank quite low. It is not a matter of what's your size population-wise. It's about what's the size of the economy, what rate is your economy growing, are you able to take people out of poverty? We are pushing more people into poverty. So I think it amounts to self-indulgence for us as a country to say, look, we are this or we're big. The reality is that the Nigerian economy is no longer a big economy by any standard.
Are you being fair? Because I know what you're saying, because IMF estimated that Nigeria's economy will grow, Nigeria's GDP will be $253 billion this year. So whatever it is, we'll still be among the top 4. And let me also tell you that we've had the bragging right of the biggest economy since 2013. That's like 11 years now, being on top. But like I always say, being big does not also mean you are healthy, you know. All right, welcome back to the program. My guests are with me here, and I will start the first introduction with Mr. Adewale Onyeride, who is the Director General at NECA. Welcome to you, sir, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us once again.
You're welcome. All right, Comrade Peter Esela is joining us also, but virtually. He is the former president, Trade Union Congress, that's TUC, and we're looking at, of course, like I mentioned at the beginning, minimum wage expectations versus reality, because the minimum wage issue is still a topical one. So, DG, welcome. I would start with you. Last week, on Friday, of course, I discussed this a bit extensively, but this is another angle to it, because to every conversation there are many sides to it.
Absolutely.
The meeting with the Mr. President last week, it was just organized labor and the federal government. There's supposed to be a tripartite committee made up of organized labor, federal government, and yourselves,
organized private sector.
But the organized private sector was not represented in that meeting. So the optics is that labor and government negotiated on their own without you guys being in the room and told you guys that the new minimum wage is 70K. Though I don't know if it was a statement from you or from NECA that says, oh, they are okay with what the president said. So I wanted you to clarify that you're supposed to be in the room because the tripartite committee is supposed to be in that meeting with the president. Then at the end of the day, you guys now say, okay, we agree with, is it because of the president or so? So what exactly happened?
Well, and thank you once again for raising this issue. I think there are two issues in one that you've raised. The first one is the understanding of the institutional framework for certain conversations. You know, in this ecosystem, there is the provision for the tripartite, and there is the provision for the bipartite. So where there are bipartite conversation between two parties, it is okay, allowable. But within the context of the national minimum wage, it ordinarily should be the tripartite. And if you remember, on the 30th of January, the tripartite committee was inaugurated. And conversation was held back and forth at the committee level. And the committee was to make a recommendation to the president. And the president was to, using his best judgment, looking at all the variables, to either accept the recommendation of the committee or make a pronouncement about the figures within the range that was agreed. That was the pattern in 2019 when the state governors had a figure in mind, private sector had a figure in mind, and then there was a consensus between the organized private sector and labor on 30,000. So 30,000 was passed to for the federal government with a definitive note on the minority report that the state governors said they cannot pay this figure. Now the president approved 30,000. Now for this context now, our expectation, our real sincere expectation was that when those conversations was going on, especially as it will affect the recommended figure, then the private sector should be part of it. That conversation, the whole conversation about the minimum wage should be driven by the tripartite. You know, we are worried that political solutions are being brought in consistently to disrupt the context of tripartism. You know, we are worried about that. You know, there are institutions that have been created. If there are disputes in the land between an employer and an employee, we have the Trade Dispute Act to resolve all these issues. We have the National Industrial Court as institutions in our ecosystem, in our labor and industrial relations ecosystem, that are meant to address many, many issues. So our concern is this. Once we keep bringing political solutions to resolve issues in the labor and industrial relations ecosystem, we are invariably weakening those institutions that we have created for ourselves to resolve those issues. We had hoped that the organized private sector would be called to also share its perspective within the context of the 70,000 that the president announced.
So why did you not agree? Did you agree? Because why did you not agree? Why did I say, okay, that NECA is okay with 70K, now, if you feel this way?
Now, this is our position at the organized private sector level. You know, when we came to the point of 62,000 at the committee level, the 62,000 was not a frivolous figure. It wasn't just a figure off our head. You know, there were a lot of analysis that was done. We actually went to the sectors, the sectoral groups, where negotiation actually takes place, and look at what exactly can the sectoral groups pay, looking at the current economic situation. Now, once we got everything that the sectoral group could pay, then you look at the first quartile of it. You look at the modal of it. What is the figure that everybody can pay without compromising those that can pay? We are talking of the minimum now. And that was what we got to 62,000. And we, in good faith, you know, shared some level of concern with the representative of the government then. We also gave them a list of the support that organized private sector will need to enable us to meet up with this, with the payment of 62,000. So our joy, if joy is the appropriate word, or what tempered the concern was the call by the president that is going to support organized private sector and the subnationals to enhance their capacity to pay.
And I wonder what that support means.
Yeah, that is the next point of our conversation.
If that support
will
be monetary or political or just by mouth,
no,
just by talking.
We actually saying we share the list, and we believe strongly, or we want to believe, that the president was referring to the exchange we've had with representatives of the federal government at the committee level.
Okay, comrade, I'll come to you in just a minute, but let me still stick with you because these are issues that we need to iron out. Now, in terms of support, which the president mentioned last week, that it will support states and organized private sector. You actually canvassed with Labour earlier, to Labour as in 62K, isn't it? Now the federal government and Labour has agreed to 70K without you guys being in the room. So they added additional 8K. So the support now, is it that the support should come in the form of the 8,000 naira to private sector to be able to pay? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do,
yes,
I
that
do.
8K, or what kind of support are you asking the federal government, since the president has said it, what kind of support are you asking the federal government to
give?
Yes.
Now, this is support.
And you mentioned the list, sorry, pardon me. You mentioned the list earlier that you had, so I would like to know what that list is
The support
about.
is simple. They are not pecuniary. And to show our commitment that we are not, the private sector is not the demon or the profit Shylock that most people have termed us. Basically, the support we requested then, and we are still requesting, is basically to make the operating environment more hospitable, to ensure that the cost of doing business reduces proportionately. Because if the cost of doing business doesn't reduce, let the minimum wage be 200,000, let it be 300,000. The high cost of production will eat off whatever figure you have. So the call was, look, let government do the needful to enable the organized private sector to breathe more. And we requested for the recent astronomical increase in electricity tariff, which has increased the cost of energy by over thousands. So government should take a critical look at that figure and find a way to either abolish it or reduce it. We talk of a freeze on new levies, taxes across the three tiers of government. Those are noble requests that we think the government should give. And so many other lists, so many other simple and achievable requests that the organized private sector has made to the government.
Okay. Let me bring in Comrade Esele here. Comrade Esele, thank you for your patience. I needed to iron this out with the DG of NECA. But walk me through your reaction when you got that news last week, just a few days ago, about 70K new minimum wage. Edo State Governor, of course, mentioned earlier that Edo State will pay 70K minimum wage. So he's one of the states that would pay at that. Then also walk me through the way you think, the first question which I asked the DG, around organized private sector not being in the room, and walk me through also your experience as a labor leader then in your days, and how 70K has been reached now.
Nancy, good morning. And one of the things that has been done here is these are normal routes of negotiation. Labour asking for over 200,000. First, it was as high as 700, and then coming down to about 200 and over 200,000. Now, you and I think we've had that conversation both formally or informally, that 200,000 naira is actually not feasible. And then when I heard that 70,000 naira had been agreed, first was that of, initially I was surprised, but again, I also had to walk the line and walk the contact and find out that, yes, looking at the happenings in the country, that may be what I'll call just a temporary thing at the moment. Because if you look at, even if you are paid 200,000, the environment right now is that inflation is going to eat it up. I'll take you back. When we had 18,000 naira as minimum wage, it was equivalent to $120 a month. Now you have 70,000 naira as minimum wage, and it's less than $50. If we are to go by 1,500 as 1,500 to the dollar. So what you have is that the quantity has increased, but the quality has not. Or if I'm to paraphrase in economic terms, your purchasing power has reduced, even though in writing, your finances has increased. So what we have to do is that if there's no omnibus plan, when I use the word omnibus plan, is between the federal, the state, and the local government. No matter what you pay, is going to be eroded. And after all, even the workers we are talking about, NSC, TUC, they are less than 10% of the working population. So what do you expect government to do, or what is my expectation of government to do to make sure that every Nigerian is a beneficiary of what is going on? Is that the various factors of production are looked into. Yes, the DG NECA made reference to an environment, a hospitable environment for private sector to drive. But you also need an hospitable environment for the average Nigerian to drive. You and I know how costly food, how costly it is to go to the market and make any purchases right now. And the reason is because you have insecurity that makes it difficult for farmers to produce. So when we talk about the factors and cost of production, it's a composite. And if we want to eradicate or ameliorate or mitigate whatever is affecting Nigerians right now, is that we have to have that factor whereby we make sure that everything is symbiotic between the federal, the state, and the local government, and everybody playing their role. Now, see, it's not the responsibility of federal government to provide transport. I live in Lagos. Tinubu is in Abuja. It's not Tinubu's business to make sure that I'm able to move from point A to point B. It's the responsibility of the Lagos state government. It's the responsibility of Edo state government. I came in from Delta yesterday. It's the responsibility of Delta state government to make all of that available. So, but once you don't have a plan, there is no plan in both state and local government to make sure that these are available. Healthcare is also the responsibility of state. Local government also have its role. So until we have an omnibus plan to know that economic indices are driven not by theory, they are not driven by ad hoc measures, they are driven by system and processes. Economics or the economy does not reward or punish you. What the economy does to you is that the economy shows you the result of the decisions that you are taking. So when you are facing hard times, it's as a result of the choices that you've made. And the various choices that whether this administration, past administration have been making is that they've been looking at the economy based on ad hoc. We wake up today, we are going to give 1 million naira to do this, or we are going to construct road from Lagos to Maduguri. What are the bases? Where is the money coming from? How are we spending this money? How is it going to stimulate the economy? What are the number of people that will be employed? That is how I know that people think in terms of economy. But that is not the way we operate. I'm just going to look at the civilian from 1999 to date, majority of what we do in Nigeria is ad hoc. So minimum wage or no minimum wage, create the environment that makes it easier for the purchasing power of the naira so that people can go to the market and buy what they want to buy. If you are paying me 50,000 and I know that I can get free healthcare, that's what happened in Nordic countries. I know I can get free healthcare. My children can go to school. I want to get a transport. I'm going by transport, and there are various tiers of transport. So whichever one I can afford is easier for me to get in. But when you don't have any of these in place, you are going to have strife.
Okay.
And then the second question asks me
Yeah.
about tripartite and what have you. I know the DG of NECA is probably he just want to say things based on the way it should be done. The DG of NECA, based on his position, must have an inkling that 70,000 naira was coming.
DG, did you have an inkling? He just posed the question to you.
Well, I will maybe the comrade president we avail us his intelligence network to know all these things. But basically, we weren't we will not dwell on the rumor part of it. You know, I think it's more credible to hear the president say things which you can now position yourself to respond to, basically.
Okay, but let me still stick with comrade. There's this confusion around wage and salary, and perhaps DG will also talk about it, that what we operate in Nigeria is a salary structure. Everybody gets paid, at least most people get paid at the end of the month. Wages are for perhaps blue-collar jobs and some other kind of jobs. So I don't know if that confusion will be laid to rest, because at the end of the month now, what a worker is entitled to is 70K. So I would like you to speak on that, really.
Yes, what don't forget is minimum.
Mm-hmm.
What we have now, when they say minimum wage, the fact is that this is an entry point. So if anybody is coming to the system right now, this is the entry point. And if you look at majority of Nigerian workers right now, you will be surprised. I'll give credit to the organized private sector for that. You are going to find out that organized private sector, you are not going to have probably maybe 20% or 30% of that part of of that sector will be paying 70,000. So you are going to have people who have moved beyond that 70,000. What you have now is that if you are looking at the informal sector, the major benefit is also going to go to the informal sector if it is enforced. By that, I mean domestic staff in houses, those in the gas stations. Those are people, even the bus conductor, those are people that are likely majorly going to benefit. And then the others you are looking at service structure whereby you are going to have a scaling, but what that can be negotiated, whereby in the past you have people who feel that, oh, if minimum wage was 30,000, now it's going to be 70,000. So I too should get 100%. I don't think that is going to happen. So the major point here is that this is an entry point. You can pay more than 70,000. I know some state governors were saying they cannot pay 70,000, but they can pay more than 70,000. If a state like Edo is paying 70,000, I know Enugu had already agreed that whatever is agreed by the tripartite, that they will pay. But what I want to say is that, fine, it's also good to have tripartite to meet, and it's also good to have institutions that are strengthened. Thank you.
Comrade, I don't know if you really answered my question, because my question is around the definition of wage. And perhaps I should come to the DG for that, because what I know that organized private sector pays is salaries. So I don't know, as the president transmits this bill to the National Assembly, if that can also be worked on, because the definition of a wage is either per piece work or you earn hourly, daily, or weekly. So I don't know how to calculate this, because what it means, literally speaking, is 70K wage, minimum wage. That means perhaps is it hourly or weekly work? Or now, should I now divide 70,000 divided by 20 working days, or in a month, 30, to give me how much I'm worth an hour? I hope you understand what I mean. So literally.
Now, we don't have it. What we have majorly, if we want to break down that wage, we don't have it. It just doesn't exist. We don't pay weekly. And what you even have is that even if you are getting the worker by the roadside to work for you, which of course is what you pay the worker, is a wage, is based on what you agreed on. So what we operate majorly in Nigeria is salary.
It's salary. So why say wage? Okay, DG.
Well, you know, the convention that birthed this, Convention 131 of the ILO, is a minimum wage setting convention. And what the current reality has brought to us, you know, because for me and for us in the organized private sector, you know, this experience should give us the opportunity to have certain conversation that we've not had before.
Exactly.
Certain conversation about wages, certain conversation about salaried work, certain conversation about minimum wage, certain conversation about, look, is it not important now? Is it not time for us to actually implement this concept of minimum wage, where an employee has the opportunity to work with 2 or 3 employers? I can say, look, I'm working 3 hours, 4 hours, or 5 hours here. Then once I'm done, I move somewhere else. That is how it is done in Europe, in America, in countries where they actually implement minimum wage. But we have so lumped up the conversation that you know, you find it difficult to separate the two. And the same thing happened to the concept of the living wage.
Living wage.
So at the point, people were throwing in the concept of living wage. And so look, what the law were inaugurated to address, to review, is the National Minimum Wage Act. Living wage, employers at the global level, we believe minimum living wage is desirable now. But there's no real framework at the global level to set a living wage. And I will also share this. In February this year, at the ILO level, the Committee on Wage, you know, they met, including labor at the global level, employers at the global level, with the ILO, to decide a framework for a living wage. That framework was agreed in February. It was presented to the governing body of ILO in March, and the ILO governing body approved that framework. That now, let's start conversation about a globally accepted framework for us to set living wage. So we have mobbed up living wage. Sometimes people call it living wage, they call it living minimum wage. Sometimes people call this salary, we call it wages.
Exactly.
I think this has given us the opportunity to come back. Once the heat is off and we get back to implementation, which is the next phase of the discussion, then I think it's very important for the Ministry of Labour and the tripartite to champion this conversation. For the next negotiation, what are we looking at? Okay. Salary, wages, or what exactly are we doing? And lastly for me, the president have addressed two issues. Well, there are 5 components in the context of the law itself. The first one is the figure that has been announced, 70,000. The second one is the duration that the president announced, 3 years.
3 years.
Then there is exceptions.
Exactly.
Those that will be exempted from it, I think the battle will be taken to the National Assembly during the public hearing. There is violations and also there is penalties. So those 3 has not been addressed, and we believe strongly that probably the president has ceded to the recommendation of the tripartite committee in those contexts. But definitely, those 3 items will go to the National Assembly for us to continue the conversation.
Okay, so let's quickly take a break. When we come back, we'll take a look at the issue of compliance, that's implementation perhaps of the minimum wage, at least for organized private sector in the context of inflation, in the context of high production cost, and perhaps those that will also be exempted. I talked about that on Friday, that not everybody is entitled to a minimum. This 70K now, I did talk about it extensively on Friday, but let's quickly take a commercial break. We'll be right back. Comrades, still stick with us. We'll also be back.
We are passionate about 2 things in Nigeria. The first is football. The second is our rice. And nobody celebrates like a Nigerian. So, for every goal scored, every mark made, you can be sure to always come back home to rice. Celebrate with Nigerian Premium Big Bull Rice, homegrown just like you. Big Bull Rice, tasty rice, nourished you.
All right, welcome back. My guest still with me, Comrade Peter Esele, former president, TUC, joining us virtually, as well as Mr. Adewale Oyoride, DG at the NECA. All right, DG, over to you. I asked the question earlier about compliance level, exemption, and perhaps the issue of productivity. How, because productivity is not even being discussed in all of this. It's all about just give us the money, make we dey go, things hard. You know, but you also need to look at productivity because the economy will either gain or suffer.
Absolutely.
I don't know who is doing that calculation. So over to you.
Well, for us, I think we've reached out to ourselves between us and organized labor, and the need for us to work together first to ensure compliance. It's one thing for you to have a law. It's one thing for you for people to comply. And really, you cannot legislate compliance, because once you legislate compliance, then you are also forced to create and empower institutions that will enforce it, which is another leakage in your system. So for us, consensus compliance, compliance based on consensus and mutual understanding is what we are building with organized labor. We are committed to making sure this works. As Comrade Esele said, in the private sector, over 60, 70, 80% of private sector is already complied with 30,000. And we're also committed to making this work, trusting that the government will also show its commitment to support the organized private sector. But the issue of compliance will be a big elephant in the room consistently. And as I said earlier, we're also open to collaborate with the Ministry of Labour, to partner with organized labor to ensure maximum compliance on these issues. On the issue of exceptions, we have also tabled our recommendation to the tripartite, noting that SMEs, SMEs are basically the engine, the drivers of this economy. And an average SME is struggling. It's really standing on one leg. Kudos to Smedan, kudos to Smedan for the work he's doing, kudos to the support that the SMEs are receiving across board, but those support need to be deepened for SMEs to actually find their feet in this economy. So rather than burden them with the issue of the minimum wage, I think we'll find a way around it and put them within the context of those exceptions so that we allow that critical sector of the economy to grow, and then they can meet up with those issues. Those recommendations we have made to the tripartite committee, and we're hoping it will be favorably looked at when the bill gets to the National Assembly.
Okay, comrade, let me come to you and ask you the question around how do you think this will impact Nigeria's job market moving forward? Because this 70K, at least for government or even the workers in Nigeria, I'm not sure up to 20 million people will benefit when this is implemented. So how do you think that this would impact the job market? DG just also spoke about MSMEs make up, or SMEs rather, the engine of growth in Nigeria, provide 84% of jobs and 96% employment. I spoke with the DG of Smedan last week here on the show, that I think on Thursday. So how do you think that we can measure perhaps also productivity and the job market moving forward? What quality of jobs will we now see in Nigeria as a result of perhaps increased minimum wage?
I think one of the SMEs are not going to be part of it, because if I'm also talking from experience. I know in the past there was a time to say if you are employing workers less than 50, you are exempted, and I think they have to drop it lower than that or even increase it higher. So if you do that, the SMEs will not be burdened with new minimum wage. The other aspect of it is that I'm not too disturbed that it's going to affect the job market, because majorly, if I'm to look at, let's take for example the TUC Trade Union Congress.
Don't you think? Sorry, comrade. Let me bring it in here. Don't you think that people would now be leaving private sector jobs to get government work, since government work will pay better? Because people that are exempted, companies that don't employ up to 25 people now, are not supposed to pay this according to at least 2019 minimum wage act, unless if they change it. So people will like, government, they pay better now, so make I go do government work.
Well, if people want to do that, from where I'm talking from the private sector, we've had that, but that has not happened. Because one thing you also know, that government work is majorly not at the blue collar level. So yes, government work is majorly not at the blue collar level. I don't think majority of people want to even go to government, go and do the job for government at the blue collar level. Most people want to go to the private sector even at that blue collar level. And if you also look at the government level, you're going to find out that there's also going to be very minimal to see somebody actually earning that 70,000. And then for the private sector, I think one of the reasons why private sector are equally very comfortable with the 70,000 naira minimum wage is that substantially majority of them have actually crossed that threshold of 70,000 naira. Okay. That's why they're very. And you notice they were complaining when others were talking about 100,000. I think the private sector would have had a major problem if it was actually 100,000 naira minimum wage.
So I think we'll leave it at that. DJ, I will hope to bring you back. Let's see if they will bring you people back in the room.
We hope so.
So President and Labour did their own. So I don't know if the president will call you people and do your own. But whatever it is, this conversation is still ongoing. So we'll continue. So I hope soon I will have you back. And comrade, of course, always for your insights. The good old days now, your days now were good old days. And now, from what we're seeing, Nigeria will hail thee. Anyway, that's the much we can take on today's edition of the program. Thank you. I've been speaking to the DG of NECA, Mr. Adewale Oyeride, as well as Comrade Peter Eseled, former TUC president. That's the much we can take. Thank you all for joining us. Please join us again tomorrow. Like I mentioned, the MPC meeting on today and tomorrow. We hope to hear from Olayemi Cardoso at the end of tomorrow. Perhaps it will increase interest rates again. That's another thing. The Boala.
And that's another problem.
That's another problem. But I'll see you all again tomorrow. Nancy Naji is my name. Be the best you can be and be the change you want to see by now. Hello everyone, I am Nancy Naji, a financial journalist, the anchor of Moneyline with Nancy on AIT. Today I'll be talking about smart savings tips for students.
Great Nigerian students. Very good.
So attention students, Hold your ears so that you can say goodbye to financial struggles. Number one, calculate your income. Know how much money is coming in so that you can set a realistic budget. Number two, track your spending. Monitor monthly expenses to identify areas for potential savings. Number three, set financial goals for yourself. Establish short and long-term goals to guide your budgeting efforts. Number four, compare your income and expenses. Ensure that your income covers your essential needs, adjusting spending accordingly. Number five, buy second-hand items if you can. And if I know you can, so save money by purchasing used items, especially books that are expensive items for you while in school. Number six, cook your meals. Cut costs by limiting dining out. Cooking at home is not only economical, but promotes self-care. I'll see you all in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Moneyline with Nancy. Join us on our program on AIT too. Hello everyone, I am Nancy Naji, financial journalist. I'll be talking about common money mistakes to avoid. Number one, ignoring financial challenges. Tough times, of course, bring discouragement, but don't let it lead you to overlooking financial issues. Make 2024 the year for financial organization. Address and understand your financial concerns. Seek advice from professionals to gain insight and clarity. Number two, avoid over-concentration in investments. Don't put your investments in one basket. Placing all your financial resources in a single investment or sector poses risk of financial losses. Experts advise diversifying your portfolio across various assets like stocks, bonds, real estate, and more for better risk management. Number three, neglecting an emergency fund. The lessons we learned in 2020 from the COVID-19 pandemic emphasize the necessity of an emergency fund. It serves as a crucial safety net for unexpected events like job loss or unforeseen medical expenses. Even starting with small contributions can lay the foundation for this essential financial cushion. Number four, open communication about family finances. Discussing money matters within the family, especially between spouses, is very vital. Understanding each other's approach to money and responses to financial situations foster clarity. So if your husband is the prudent type that knows about investment, he can handle issues about money. If your wife is the same, she can handle issues about money. But joint discussions enable better family financial decisions, including involving grown children, establishing a clear understanding of the family's financial standing. I'll see you all again in the next video. I hope you've learned common money mistakes to avoid in 2024. I'll see you all again. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Moneyline with Nancy TV. Hello everyone, I am Nancy Naji, the anchor of Moneyline with Nancy on AIT. Today I will be talking about January federal government savings bonds. The Debt Management Office has introduced 2 new savings bonds for subscription at 1,000 Naira per unit. These are the initial offers for 2024, with one being a 2-year bond set to mature on January 17, 2026 at an interest rate of 11.033% per annum. The other is a 3-year bond maturing on January 17, 2027 with an interest rate of 12.033% per annum. Both bonds are open for subscription. They've been opened from Monday, January 8th, and they will last till Friday, January 12th, with a settlement on January 17th and coupon payment on April 17th, July 17th, October 17th, and January 17th. Investors can subscribe starting from a minimum of 5,000 Naira and in multiples of 1,000 Naira thereafter, with a maximum subscription of 50 million Naira. Interest is paid quarterly and the principal amount is repaid in full upon maturity. These savings bonds, like other federal government securities, are supported by the full faith and credit of the federal government and secured against Nigeria's general assets. What are you waiting for? As little as 5,000 Naira, you can invest. Check out your licensed bank or your stockbroker. I'll see you in the next video.